Friends. Some of you may know this about me, and some of you may not, because I have some new followers recently, which is really exciting. But I grew up in Washington, D.C. And, oh, hi, Suri. Suri, listen, I'm so happy that you're here. Hi, Beth. So I grew up in Washington, D.C. I don't live there now. I live on the East Coast, or the West Coast. And my husband and I, though, we have the privilege of going back to DC quite often. And our most recent trip, we went back there for the holidays. We went back for Christmas. And we decided that we would stay there through the inauguration. And I've been thinking about headlines recently, y'all. And I wonder if someone had told me the headline of what happened on January 6th at the United States Capitol. I wonder if I would have gotten on the plane. Just being real. Obviously I would have gotten on the plane because I would want to see my mom for Christmas and stuff like that. But what happened on January 6th was not just a headline for me. It was extremely traumatic, and I didn't realize it until much later, until I got home. And I was talking with some girlfriends, amazing group of girlfriends, and that I went to college with. And I was just unloading all of my thoughts and feelings about what happened. Of course, the topic naturally came up. All of us were from the East Coast, and I was just unloading all of my feelings about it. And one of my friends shared this word, this beautiful word that I have been searching for my entire life, just to really describe essentially my experience as being a female and an African American in the United States. She shared this word with me, and it's intersectionality. And the idea is simply that there is these large social categories that are obviously interconnected. So things like race, gender, class, big topics like this. And I'm so grateful she pointed out this word because it has been so impactful for me, and I plan on using it now whenever I talk to other people going forward. But all of that to say, what happened for me on January 6th, or the experience of intersectionality, has never been so flagrantly in my face is what happened to me on January 6th. And so many social categories entwined for me that day. I could unpack many, many different things that I felt, but I want to just share quickly three topics, three categories that made an impact on me on that day. And I want to share them from the perspective of being a daughter of DC, being a sister, and then being an aunt. So just first, as being a daughter of DC, so being a child, like someone who grew up in DC, I never realized until what happened on January 6th at the Capitol, how much I viewed the National Mall as sort of my own childhood playground, right? So whether it was the Tidal Basin and we were going there to have a picnic under the cherry blossoms, or whether we were going to the Lincoln Memorial, whatever, that place, the National Mall, was my playground. It was my backyard. It's just where we did things. My mom was an educator, and so she was really passionate about making sure that we took advantage of the beautiful historical things we had going on around us. I remember as a child being able to run up the Capitol steps, play around the Capitol. You could run through the rotunda from one side to the other, and the Capitol Police were just like, "Hey, what's up?" That was normal. That was my lived experience. So fast forward maybe from 1991 to 2021 as an adult, and going up to the Capitol this past January and being blocked, having a fence there and having it blocked off to me was so jarring. It was so jarring. And I couldn't really figure out why at first it upset me so much. And I realized that I was feeling a tremendous amount of grief because it felt as though part of my childhood experience was being cut off from me. that I could no longer access that because of other people's paranoia or their hatred or their violence. That was hugely traumatic for me after the events of January 6th. And it broke my heart, honestly. It broke my heart. And it breaks my heart for many people who've never visited Washington, D.C., because it's actually every American's right to be able to do that, to be able to walk up and visit those places. And I don't know if that's going to be the case anymore. And that grieves me. The second sort of way that I interfaced with this experience and found it to be deeply traumatic, essentially, is that as a sister. And you guys, I could go on into this topic a lot. This could be its own topic. But I am a sister to a beautiful Black man who lives 5 blocks from the U.S. Capitol. And I was only a 10-minute drive away from him at that time, but it was extremely, extremely terrifying to not know where the situation was going to go and if he was going to be okay. If he stepped out of his front door, would he be okay? We can look back now at the headline and see that, okay, maybe it wasn't as racially motivated as it could have been, sure, but I did not know that at the time. So in my social category, just merely as a sister, just human to human, you guys, you are maybe, Lord willing, you have the blessing of being a sister to somebody. It was so gut-wrenching to fear for the life of this man that I love merely because he exists in his God-given skin. That is just not okay. And that's one of the intersections as a sister, but yes, sister to a Black man, that was jarring for me through that whole entire experience. And then I think third and finally, well, not finally, but one of the three things I want to share with you is my experience as an aunt. And this one was really surprising, actually. Because again, I could have never predicted, quote unquote, that this would have happened. But that same beautiful brother was having a newborn. I was having a newborn baby. And I cannot do this portion of my story justice. I've been wanting to write a blog about it. So if you would read a blog about this, drop a yes, just so that I know. But this is what I can say about that experience from my perspective as an aunt, is that the ripple effect of January 6th overflowed in so many unforeseen ways to people on the ground, including pregnant, overdue mothers not being sure if they could even get to the hospital because the city had to shut down and essentially prepare for another war, right? I'm not kidding, you guys. We did not know if we could get to the hospital in time for my niece to be born. And it was incredibly, incredibly distressing and traumatic to have to think of contingency birth plans for my beautiful biracial niece. So that's a whole nother, again, intersection that I feel something about. This beautiful baby girl who I want to come into the world in safety. It just jarred me so much that we had to think of a contingency birth plan for her because of other people's hate. It was terrifying. It was horrible. It's like one of the most awful feelings I've ever felt in my life. And I wasn't even bearing her. And listen, I've watched many episodes of Call the Midwife, but you do not want me delivering your baby. So the fact that I was the contingency plan was also a little distressing. But honestly, we didn't know what we were up against. We didn't know what we had to do. And it's just not, to me, again, that's just not right. And that was one of the most traumatic things about it for me. So why am I bringing this up? Obviously, it's April. But like I said at the beginning, I'm thinking a lot about headlines. There are so many crazy headlines going on right now, y'all. Like, so many shootings, so many so many shootings, so many other racially motivated crimes. And then, of course, we have the George Floyd trial going on right now. And I can't help but pause for a minute and think about the fact that 11 months ago, this was something that everybody wanted to talk about. This was something that everybody was really passionate about and getting kind of, I am going to call it a bandwagon. Everybody was talking about it. And now I feel like it's just gone really, really quiet. And here we are in the midst of his trial, the actual execution of justice. And it doesn't seem like anybody's talking about it. Now I can say that about myself too, right? It's very easy for me to go on and be like, move on with my life. But I'm realizing through my own personal experience, because other people move on from what happens, but I'm not able to move on from what happened on January 6th to some extent. I'm still processing it. Here we are in April and I'm still processing it. So I know for a fact that the family, the friends, the people in Minnesota on the ground who went through the lived experience of what happened to George Floyd are still thinking about it. They're still living it. And the same for people in Atlanta who just went through those horrible shootings there. All the people right now who are going through shootings. These events are traumatic and they're real. And I think what has really solidified for me ever since my experience with January 6th in the U.S. Capitol is that these headlines affect real people in real ways in the real places in which they happen. They are not just headlines. These are people. And I am one of these people. These are real stories. These are defining moments. And I now forever have been defined by that. I don't get to turn that off. I don't get to walk away from that. And so this has just been something that has been on my heart for a minute. And I wanted to just get on and share my personal story because I think it is so important that I, Hannah, never disconnect myself from that human element of these things. These are real things that have happened to real people. These are real stories. And I have had this real story on my heart for a while, and I just wanted to share it with you. And I want to thank you for being here, and thank you for listening. And I'm going to share some stuff in my story about some pictures that I took while I was there at the U.S. Capitol, etc. Maybe I'll post my baby niece so you can see her. She's really cute. But thank you so much for listening. And I'm going to be doing this a lot more with my makeup and sharing some stories. So take care of yourself. And until we talk again, stay royal. Bye.